Form I-9 is used for verifying the identity and employment authorization of individuals hired for employment in the United States. All U.S. employers must ensure proper completion of Form I-9 for each individual they hire for employment. The form is equipped with drop-down menus and a help feature assigned to each field. We will demonstrate how to use these options later in this video. Let's look at an example of how to complete the form in its entirety. In the first row of Section 1, the employee will enter their first and last name along with their middle initial. If the employee has had a different last name, such as a maiden name, it should be entered in the last field of the first row. If no other last names have been used, they must enter NA. The second row is for the address. The employee can hover over the question mark for instructions on how to fill out the apartment number field. If an apartment number is not applicable, the employee must enter NA. The employee can use this help feature at any point when filling out this form if they need further information. Let's move on. The employee can now enter the city, state, and zip code. Notice that the state field offers a drop-down box for ease of selection. The third row is for additional demographic information. The date of birth is required, and this format must be followed. The Social Security number is voluntary unless the employer participates in E-Verify. Email and phone numbers are also voluntary, but cannot be left blank. The employee must enter NA if they elect not to disclose this information. Now let's look at the Attestation section. Employees must select one of the 4 statuses in this section. When a status is selected, this area will auto-populate the fields that do not need to be completed as a result of their selection. Let's look at what happens when the employee selects number 1, a citizen of the United States. If they click box number 1, the remaining open fields for boxes 3 and 4 will auto-populate with an NA. Let's look at another example. If the employee selects box number 3, a drop-down appears in the second field, allowing the employee to identify whether the number provided in the previous field is an alien number or a USCIS number. Similarly, the fields related to box number 4 will auto-populate with NA. The next section is for the employee signature. The I-9 form cannot be signed and dated electronically. Section 1 must be printed and physically signed and dated by the employee. In the Prepare Translator Certification section, one of the boxes must be selected. If a preparer or translator was used, then the rest of the section should be completed. Once the employee completes Section 1, they will click the button to finish. A pop-up will appear asking if they would like to review the document for missing information. They should select Yes. If the document is completed properly, it will prompt them to print and sign. Let's look at Section 2. This section is completed by the employer. If you are completing the form electronically, the employee info from Section 1 will auto-populate. The documents the employee presents to validate their identity and work authorization will determine how Section 2 is completed. It is important to remember that you need to review original documents. Photocopies or scans of documents are not permitted. Let's look at a common example of an employee presenting a driver's license for List B and a Social Security card for List C. All of the columns provide drop-down options for document title. In the second column, select Driver's License. Once an option is selected in List B, notice that all of the fields in List A get auto-populated with NA. Additionally, a drop-down menu appears for issuing authority. Select the state from which the license was issued. For this example, we will use Wisconsin. Next, you will enter the document number and the expiration date. If this field is not applicable, enter NA. The List C column works the same way. Fill out the information from the employee's Social Security card. You may notice that there is a field called Additional Information. It can be used for notations that you may have previously made in the margins. This area can be left blank if not needed. Check out the help icon for more information. Let's move on to the employer's attestation section. Enter the employee's first day of work for pay, following the prescribed format. In the 3 lines below the start date, all of the fields can be filled out electronically, except the signature and date fields. Once you are done with Section 2, click the button to finish. Similar to Section 1, you have the option to review the document for missing information. Select Yes. If the document is completed properly, it will remind you that the document must be physically signed and dated. This section only gets completed when former employees are rehired and/or the employment authorization has expired and needs to be updated. Most of this section can be completed electronically, and the drop-downs work similar to other sections. However, like Section 1 and 2, it must be printed to be signed and dated. That completes the review of how to complete the new I-9 form. For more information, contact ArchBright at 206-329-1120 or 509-381-1635.